Kevin Beal. I'm here to talk about tubes today. Last year, I brought a box of Sifty 12AU7s that were made in 1959 in a master pack. They had not been opened. They were perfect. They were brand new. And I busted the seal. And I swear to God, the room went, oh, when I opened it. You know, so I was trying to think of something to outdo myself, and we came up with a few things. One was my sweetheart Laura. You want to come up here, Laura? Laura thinks that I'm the tube king, only because I told her so. And so she made... Oh, my necklace. Okay, this says tube pimp. That was a motif we went with some years ago. Ivana Manley and I dressed up like pimps at the Consumer Electronics Show, and we wore things that said tube pimp. So I still have this. I thought I would wear it. Okay, so you gotta have a little bling. Now the master bling. And I've been told, because these are electron tubes, it will actually regrow hair. We'll find out at the end of the show. Anyway, I'll wear this for a second. I might take it off. I'm feeling a little top heavy right now. Okay, so what did I bring? I brought a couple things. These are Pope 12AX7s. These are the same thing as Amperex bugle boards. These were made in Holland in 1959. Pope was a name that Philips used, Amperex used, to sell tubes to Chile. I mean, Chile is a nice Catholic country, so what are you going to do? What are you going to name your tubes? We'll name them after the Pope. So these are Pope 12AX7s. I had a few of these. This is the last box, and I'm not going to sell them. I'm just going to hold on to them. I'm going to open them for you. Just so you know, I've scoured the world. Southeast Asia, Europe. I walked through Paris one time so much, I swear this to you, I lost my large toenails trying to track down tubes. I mean, so I've gone to great lengths to try to find tubes. So these are, in their original packs, Tubos Electronicos 12AX7s. They're kind of priceless. They're worth about $275 each if I was to sell them. What's really cool is they have their own little carrier inside the box. That's the way they used to do things back in the 50s. And they're incredible too. So if you ever heard of, anybody here ever heard of Amperex bugle boys before? Okay, this is the same thing. It's the same tube, just branded a different tube. It is a color. So now, this is kind of cool. This is ridiculous, and I'll show you that. When the Russians were going to take over and bomb us into oblivion, we had to protect our tubes because we needed tubes. So we hid them and stashed them, and we kept them in cans. This is not Campbell's soup. This is tubes in a can. And if you read on here, it talks about the reception date of 3/23/1953, the military base in Paris. And these are RCA 6V6s. Completely sealed like that, so they can be protected from the elements, protected from nuclear bombs, whatever. So no matter what, we'll have 6v6s. I'm going to have Cal open these because I don't. Ooh. They also put this wax material on the outside, so that's nifty. I can't believe I'm opening these. I'm never going to open these. Ever. Ever.
Is that the sound of a vacuum being broken?
Oh yes, it was a rush of air in the back.
They're a vacuum tube after all. Got it? Yeah. Okay. Boom. Thank you, Cal. Does this interest you guys? Anybody curious?
Yeah.
Worse than Tuesday, or, you know, I like it. And here's more stuff. There's 2 white flags that are crossed. 2 white flags. And some people say that is the French Army flag. Some say that is the French We Surrender flag. I don't know which it is. But they do have cross flags. And I unwrap them. Come on, baby. Jesus. All right, I'm doing this the rough way.
What year did you say those came out?
1953.
Okay.
There we go. Just like that. These are actually GEs. I had some that were RCAs. These are GEs. They were made in 1953. Bingo. That's the way they used to do stuff back in the day. I mean, it was just, you know, I mean, it's the way everything worked. Everything worked. You counted on it. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to just talk about tube stuff and maybe dispel some rumors, or, you know, maybe your equipment has an issue or something like that. So what we'll do is we'll just have an open conversation, and you guys can just ask, you know, questions. And there's no dumb questions. You've got to get this stuff out. Because if not, you know, you're going to, the stuff that I hear from people is just crazy.
How do you track things like this down, Kevin?
How do I track these down? I found these in Brussels, Belgium. And I bought like about a dozen cans. And then I begged my friend in Brussels. He had a couple cans left that he kept for himself. And I told him what I was doing. And I said, you've got to sell me a couple more cans. And he agreed. But how do I track him down? I'll give you an example. I was in Paris in this social gathering, kind of like this. And I was wearing a vacuum tube shirt. And this big British guy, kind of just real slow, he comes up and he goes, do you like vacuum tubes? And I go, yeah, I like vacuum tubes. He says, I've got an old radio. And I've heard about a gajillion, I've got an old radio stores. So my eyes started rolling back in my head, you know, like that. And he said, and I buy my tubes from this guy at Radio Tubes Paris. And you know what? That guy doesn't take credit cards. He doesn't take checks. And he's got tubes stacked all the way up to the ceiling. And I think that he'd want to sell them. And I go, what? You know? So found out where this guy was, and indeed, he had the stuff. It was probably one of my biggest buys I ever made. But he only took cash. I had to tell American Express that I was bleeding. I called MasterCard, told them I was in a car. I had to get emergency cash advances. And I bought everything I could get my hands on. I called a taxi. The taxi took me to a rental car station. I drove them from Paris up to Eindhoven in the Netherlands, where my business partner is, for Prima Luna. And I mean, that was one of the greatest scores I ever made.
How many tubes were there?
Token, I mean, I walked in Germany. There's this guy that says, there's a guy, he's got a bajillion tubes. He's down the street, and there was no taxis in the town. I I walked 3 miles and he had like 6 tubes. Were usable at all. They weren't even tubes that could be used. You know. So it's a matter of who you know. It's a matter of keeping your nose out there. I just bought a bunch of stuff from Turkey. I just bought a bunch of stuff from Russia, from the Netherlands, just in the last 3 weeks. You know, you have to fight too, because there's competitive buyers from Hong Kong, China, Korea. I mean, it is like, I've got to buy it all, you know, to get it all, and that's what I do. That's the way I've operated. So, what other questions do you have?
So, some of it is luck and some of it is knowledge. Contacts.
Right. Right. I shudder to tell you this story because you'll think I'm a creep. I was on my way down for a function with somebody that was dear to me, and it was supposed to be no work, no nothing, and I smelled tubes. I smelled them. And there was a radio repair shop, TV repair shop there, but it was in Orange County. And, you know, everyone I figured it didn't look through. So I popped in there and go, you guys got any tubes? He goes, yeah, we got these up here. We had Western Electric 300 Bs and 350 Bs and metal base L34s. They were worth hundreds of dollars each, thousands of dollars each. And I go, oh, you want to sell them? He goes, well, yeah, but I want $50 for them. I go, all right. I should have, you know, I let him name the price. I mean, I'm not naughty. I pay a fair price for stuff. I pay big money. That was one that, you know, I let him do.
Steal of the century, huh?
Yeah.
How many were there in that group?
I bought them and I put them in my van. I could not believe it so much. I got up. I thought I was in a dream. I woke up 3 times during the night and I went down to my van to look to see that they were actually there. Because I could not believe what happened. It was, I've got like 6 300Bs, a couple 350Bs, 4 metal base EL34s, and some other stuff. Just, you know, a lot of stuff.
Go ahead.
I have a question about, what do you think of those tubes that Musical Fidelity used to put in their old Tri-Vista amps? I think they're called Tri-Vista tubes.
Right.
What's the?
They're a little flying lead tube.
They're little tiny tubes.
Yeah.
Are they really tubes?
Yeah. Well, like that anymore, I'm going to lose my hat. So, yes.
Okay.
And they're real tube. They work fine. They last forever. I've never seen one replaced. You know.
So the shelf life, I mean the life on these things are like, you just can't wear them out. They
Yeah,
just
I
don't
won't
go
worry about
out.
it. I've never seen one replaced.
Okay.
You know, it's like the vacuum tube clock that we use in the premium CD player. You know, those are a lifetime tube. Similar, flying lead tube. What about questions about power and stuff? You guys, you know, because people are curious about how much power you need, or what's right or what's wrong. You know. And, yes.
My husband's system is all tube, and one of the things that worries me is when he's done playing for a couple of hours, the tube equipment is just, I mean, you could boil soup on it. And that worries me. I don't know why it worries me.
But he turns it off, right?
He turns it off. You're just watching it get hotter and hotter and hotter.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. The catches fire, I'd worry about it.
I mean, you know, I have this
Some amplifiers run the shit out of tubes. What kind of amp is it?
Manly. It's Manly.
I wouldn't worry about it. Go ahead.
The tube's coming from China. The main producer is now putting out so-called premium tubes, black razor, this and that. Are they worth a damn? They're sure getting the price for them.
Chinese are very smart. Chinese 845 tube is perfect. It's perfect. We used to sell them for $45 each. They go, and everybody knew they were perfect. So the Chinese go, well, shit. We'll just take these and change them to an 845G or an 845 this, and then they triple or quadruple the price. That's what's happened. So I don't buy into that. You know, I don't believe that they should be more than a new old stock tube made by the best manufacturers ever. I have a preference for Russian tubes as far as current production, so, or most Russian tubes. So, yes.
I got a man, the Stingray, I wanted to show a few years back. There's two tubes in the front. When I go to start it, one of them glows real brightly, the other one just a flicker.
Right.
And they both settle down.
Right.
Why is one real bright, the other one?
That's just the current flowing through the tube. And there's a little bit of resistance, and it gets, tubes are supposed to flash. If you go to my website, upscaleaudio.com, there's a frequently asked questions page that talks about that. Some tubes will glow, mullards specifically, or tubes that are made like mullards will flash when you turn them on. Sometimes, I wouldn't worry about it. It's not a big deal at all. It's just, there's resistance in the heater.
Right, I understand.
So it's gonna get real
One is so
bright there.
bright, and the other one's just very dim when it starts.
Yeah, that's because
So now,
all the action's happening over here and not over there.
so
So,
it's not going to blow up.
no, it's not gonna blow up. You're fine.
12 AX7s.
Huh?
I had some 12 AX7s. There was
Yeah,
like 4 of them with one flash.
yeah.
Just one. But it was okay.
One flash?
One seen the flash.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Turned it on, yeah.
No, if power tubes flash, that's an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Power tubes flash, that's not good. Small signal tubes, if they flash, no problem.
One more question. I'm running another amp set of EL34s, and they're mullards, new issue mullards. And the one of them, where the silver coating is starting to go black. What does that mean?
Well, what kind of amp is it?
It's a can. The one of the first cans that came in the country, the
Did
T830.
you bias each tube individually? Or does it have one bias?
So I got these from the former owner. I don't know, but this can is modified to where I can manually bias it.
Okay. My question to you is,
Yeah.
and this is good to know, is matching tubes. You don't really need matching tubes if you have a bias adjustment for each tube, because then you're able to adjust how each tube idles. Do you have 4 bias adjustments?
Yes.
Well, that one tube may be biased too hot and you don't know it, or it could be a funky tube. If it's turning black, that's a little weird, because usually what happens is the getter, the silver getter, dissipates and gets milky.
Right. Now this one's turning black, the other 3 are silver.
Interesting. I don't know. Did you buy the tubes from Upscale Audio?
Those came with the amp when I bought it. All my other tubes, yes, do come from you.
Okay. This is my cousin John, by the way.
Not true.
Okay. Yes.
I have some Sovtech 6922s, preamp tubes that do the same thing. They get black. Very quickly.
Yeah, they'll get black spots, don't worry about
I mean, the whole thing.
it. Yeah,
Okay, so
no,
that's,
no problem.
for preamp tube, it's not really.
Not a problem. And the Sovtechs do that,
All right.
not a problem. Yes?
So what makes the difference between an NOS versus a current production? What makes the NOS so appealing?
What makes it work?
The new old stock, like the vintage tube, so appealing?
Well,
Or why
I mean,
can't
they
we,
were made, they may not be appealing. I mean, there's new old stock tubes that were dog shit, so, you know,
Or like the Telefunken 12 EX7
it's a
versus.
very good tube.
But what makes a difference, inherent difference between
They
that?
were made with the best materials. They were fighting for military contracts. I mean, you know, this is a Cold War, man. This was going up in products that rockets, and I mean, it was critical that these tubes, and I'll dispel another rumor. People say that older tubes are better than the later tubes in new old stock. That is absolutely not true. The only company that made their tubes worse in the last years of their production compared to the earlier years, and even it's very slight, would be Sylvania. Mullard made their tubes better in 1984 than they did in 1962. So they pushed to, you know, get those government contracts.
And is there anyone that makes current production tubes sort of comparable to some of the older?
Yeah, you know, they're making great tubes now. I don't like JJ, because they're not dependable enough, though I hear the 6CA7 is good, but JJs are just, I've been burned by it. I remember the first JJ KT88s that entered the country, the very first one. Me and Axman Pittman were grabbing them out of the box. We thought it was the savior. They looked so bitchin', you know. Plugged them in, you know, the rods were bent, and you know, I just don't do anything with them. There's other stuff that's good. Russian tubes work really, really well.
What about the Chinese that was mentioned earlier?
Like which Chinese?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know
Chinese
how many
mesh plate
companies there are.
300Bs, smoking good. Chinese 845, the regular ones, where you don't get overpriced, smoking good. 12AX7s, 12A87s, pretty good. KT88s, you know, we're going to kind of get away from that in Prima Luna. Prima Luna runs the tubes really easy. We only run about 405 volts to the plates and the screens, compared to some companies that run 600 volts. So they're running their tubes, you know, 50% harder than ours. But we're going to kind of change that a little bit. Chinese EL34 is pretty good. Chinese KT88, they hiccup sometimes. Yes?
What's happening with Wing C? I understand they're having problems with some of this stuff.
I'd like to thank my cousin Vern again for asking a wonderful question. Wing C tubes. First of all, the name was lost. You know how they lost their name, right? They used to be called Svetlana. You know how they lost the name, don't you? Okay. They were called Svetlana. They were the greatest power tubes on the planet, especially the Svetlana 6550C and the EL34. Incredible. The importer to the United States went bankrupt. After, in the bankruptcy court, Mike Matthews, who owns New Sensor, who owns Electro Harmonics, who owns the Mullard Reissues, who owns all that shit, he bought the Svetlana name, and he started taking his tubes and branding them Svetlana, which I think was really dirty. So, the people in Russia at Svetlana had to call their products SED, Wing C. Thankfully, people kind of keyed into that. The Svetlana that Mike Matthews is selling is not really selling well. The problem with SED Wing C was Marshall. Marshall was buying up all the production they could get. So the importer couldn't get them. Any tubes that were floating around were like B stock, not good. I finally found a way to buy the way Marshall does. I deal direct with Russia now. And so I get first grade, first quality 6550Cs, and they are gorgeous. They're better than the KT88 Svetlanas. So, go ahead.
283 tubes, comment on good sounding tubes that are reasonable?
You know, I don't even sell them, because there's just just so fringe. I mean, it's true. I mean, I've got new old stock ones, but I don't see any of the current production ones. So, sorry about that. There's plenty of forums, that's for sure. You know where to go. Okay.
I guess a little more technical question. When looking at mostly new old stock tubes, I guess, but a little bit of current stock, you read about the various sound characteristics, whether more or less desirable for different manufacturing techniques with the length and type of plate, the shape and type of getter, and all this sort of thing. Within the same variant, with the same electrical characteristics, can you talk a little bit about maybe why they would make different decisions on how to manufacture those over time, and why the sound is changed by those different techniques?
Should I take this hat off? Yeah?
It looks heavy.
It's starting to look a little dorky.
You got hair.
But I'm keeping it. It worked? Yay! Okay, thank you, Laura. Okay. Plates, getters. You know what the getter is, that ring? People talk about, oh no, you gotta get it with the large getter or the small getter or the square getter. Oh, it's gonna sound better. You know what, dude? The getter has nothing to do with the sound of the tube. And in fact, I have gotten master packs of tubes from the factory where they put large getters and small getters in the same production line, made the same day. There's no difference. It's just a little thing. The getter is just this little thing that comes up and it heats up the silver stuff up on the top and it burns off impurities. That has nothing to do with the sound of the tube. Now, what was the other question you had?
Well, I mean, other things like the length and the type of plate, and you're always reading about you want the long black plates, or you want the gray plates are okay, or and I'm curious why
They
they're
always
different.
want black plates.
I'm curious why they've made them differently, and why it's the same variant, but they apparently have different sounds.
The unfortunate thing is that guys spend $200 on a long plate muller, and they're not going to say, oh man, that's screwy. They're not going to do that. They're going to go, oh, this is nasty. I supplied some tubes to Vacuum Tube Valley magazine. Has anybody here ever heard of that? Okay. All right. I supplied them with their tubes for their listening tests. And I said, okay, I'm going to send you a CBS 7729, and I'm going to send you a 6922 Amperex Pinchways. But I don't even think you should put them in because they are so rare, people aren't going to find them, and why even bother frustrating them? Well, not only did they put them in the listening tests, they were the best tubes. It's all, no matter what, the rarest ones were the best tubes. It couldn't be the ones, let's think about this a second. The rarest tubes are rare because they might have really sucked. Like the Amperex Pinchway 6922 was noisy and microphonic. But they're very rare, so they charge big bucks. It couldn't be that there's plenty of tubes available because the tube was a great success and was dependable and the government bought them because it said, man, these are the ones. It's got to be the rare one. So don't buy into that too much. Yes?
I'm sort of, really new into the tube application and things like that. I got a 2-box tube, the Project phono preamp, and I had 2 Moeller tubes, the 84 new old stock from you actually, and I'm enjoying them. But the question I sort of have, I'm concerned about sort of maintenance over the lifetime. I have a younger brother who likes to listen to records in my room because I play them now, and sometimes he'll come in and he'll just listen to like one, and he'll turn on the amp and listen to maybe a single or something, and then he'll turn it off. And I'm kind of hearing things. Go ahead, the chain.
I got another chain.
I'm wondering, I hear things about, you don't want to just turn them on and turn them off like that. Sometimes they'll just go for like 1 song or 2 songs. And what's your opinion on, for lifetime tubes or for maintenance of the tube?
tubes fail in a couple ways. Big power tubes fail by shorting. Little tubes fail by getting noisy. So I try to tell people don't cycle them on and on. Also, do not go crazy trying to listen to differences between tubes by plugging one in, playing it for 5 minutes, and plugging another one and playing it for 5 minutes, because you loosen up the tube sockets. Bad news. You're asking about whether it should be left on.
Yeah, whether you want to leave them on for a little bit
If
before.
you're going to play it in a couple hours, I would just leave it on. If it's going to be not playing for 8 hours, I would turn it off, because tubes really warm up in about 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Two questions. One, 12AX7 tubes that are available now, any preferences, things that aren't crazy expensive?
Well, there's the Tunsil reissue, there's the Mullard reissue, there's the Gold Lion reissue. Those are the hotties. JJ makes one, which is kind of a soft, roly-poly sound, so I don't sell them. So I guess those are the hotties. JJ, or Gold Lion, Mullard, Tunsil.
What about doing the stock that are not crazy expensive?
12AX7s are crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Because they're just getting used up. So they're around $100 each or more. Mullard 4004s, I just raised the price to $140. I mean, I didn't want to, but I had to slow it down.
I have a little Maury preamp that claims that it's using cool tube technology. What is it?
Cool tube technology. Cool, man. I don't know. I don't know what they mean by that.
You guys have been getting into cryogenically treated tubes recently.
Yes.
Can you comment on the process of treating a tube that way and then talk about the benefits of the tube?
We use a company called 300 Below. It takes a week to get them there. It takes a week for them to be treated, where they're brought down slowly to 300 degrees below zero. Then they're brought up in a controlled manner. It's all computer controlled. Brought up in a controlled manner. So that takes a week, and then it takes a week back. We try to have everything already treated. We send them in mass. So we have them. The word on the street is, from people I trust, that there does not seem to be a break-in period, that the tubes really sound bitching out of the gate. Do they last longer? Tools last longer. They cryogenically treat engine parts, rifle barrels, golf clubs, and it's a real benefit there. With tubes, I can't say, because I would have to set up a test, and I just haven't been able to do so. I haven't had the time.
What is the price difference with the cryogenically treated tubes?
$8 a tube. Which isn't bad.
KT 120s, comments?
There might be some benefit.
KT120s are, they bias up and they operate the same way as a KT88, except they draw 15% more filament. So there is a chance that they could tax the filament supply of your amplifier. What amp do you have?
A Rogue for the KT88.
A Rogue?
KT120s, yeah.
You might want to ask them.
Well, they supply them, but I should phrase it differently. What do you think of them sound-wise?
Everybody who buys them loves them. I mean, I sell them. How much does Rogue charge for them?
They came with the new
Oh, it
amp,
came with it.
with the Magnum version.
Okay. Yeah, they sound good. My favorite power tube is the SED 6550C. The Wing C 6550C. That is the best sounding power tube ever. And I told people that. I stopped selling them for 2 years because I couldn't get a stock. But I told people I love them, but I can't get good ones. Now I got good ones.
Now that you have them, what do you sell them for?
Tree
Staying with that, the 6550Cs, wing Cs that are not SEDs, what are the problems with those? Do they fail? Do they just not sound as good as the SEDs?
What do you mean, the Svetlanas?
You were talking about a guy that you identified by name who was marketing the wing Cs, 6550Cs that are not SEDs.
Right.
Are there problems with those
He
tubes?
bought the Svetlana name. He took Electro-Harmonics, which is also called Sotec, and branded them Svetlana. He copied the Svetlana box, and he tried to get the market to accept that it was the same. But the market did not accept it, thankfully, because what he did, in my opinion, was he did a dirty, I think.
What do they sound like in comparison with the SEDs?
And it sounded like a Sawtech, which is okay. The SED is the bomb, in my opinion.
How about KT90s?
What KT Nightmare.
50C, 6550C. I know, I'm not familiar with KT.
Everybody I know who has used that too,
But
or wanted to use it for manufacturing, says it's a
wing
nightmare.
Cs that are not SEDs, so that's what I wanted you to tell me.
The EI KT90 has been out of production now for what, 10 years? I had tons of them. I was the only guy in the US that was imported because I figured out how to do it. I've still got some. I'm going to put them on the website. I just found out I had one more box of them. That's a good tube, and they seem to last forever. If they don't short out, they last. I've never seen one more out. Ever. Wow. It's crazy.
Also, going back to that you mentioned about, I think they tested for the 12AX7s, and their judgment was the telefunction was best for musical instruments and the Moog best for high fidelity. Do you agree with that?
I think that what they were hearing may have been a result of one tube testing a little better than another, or a little hotter than another. In other words, take two tubes that test the exact same and then compare it. Telefunken's a great tube. I'm kind of a Muller guy myself. I just love Mullers. I mean, they're nice. And Muller 12AU7s and Muller 12AT7s are selling at an abnormally low price. One other thing. If you have a tube amplifier, you need to know what the job of the tube is. The little tubes. Input tube, they need to be long microphony. Driver tube, you can put in dog shit. You can put in a tube that's microphonic. Excuse my language, but you don't have to spend big money. And we tell you that. So you can put in the driver sleeves. They should be quiet. You know, we kick out any tube that's noisy, but they do not have to be low on microphony because of their job. The input tube, low on microphony. If it's the driver or the buffer in a CD player, typically. Driver, buffer, save your money. Because then you can buy some sexy stuff for a really low price. Does that make sense? Yes?
Does that mean that if you happen to like European tubes, use them, but if you're using it for line or buffer, you could use a brand new GE from 1955 that's going to work just as well as any other.
Repeat that for me?
For driver buffer tubes, if you happen to have some old Ruo stock GEs or RCAs or Sylvanias or whatever, they'll do just as good a job as just about anything else.
Sure. Absolutely. If you have some tubes that you thought were microphonic,
Yeah, I understand.
then put them in as a driver or a buffer. So you can look in the owner's manual, or you can call the manufacturer and say, what's this? Just say this, which tubes do not have to be low on microfilament? And they'll say V6, V7. And that will allow you to save some bucks.
Do you think the Muller 10Ms are worth the expense?
Muller 10Ms were a way for them to charge more for tubes. You know, I mean, they're great too. I mean, I've got some. I mean, I don't even know I'd sell them for. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I've got something better than that. I've got Tektronix matched telephones.
Are there some of the gimmicks that, like tube dampers or things that dissipate heat a little bit more, are they worth it, or are they, we should stay away from it?
Tube dampers? Anybody here use tube dampers? Come on, you can tell me, I'm a doctor. Okay. If it sounds better, do it. I don't run tube dampers because part of the thing that people like about tubes is the vibrancy of the sound. And if you use tube dampers, you're kind of clamping it down, you know, and you're not getting that thing that we love about tubes. Let's be real clear about this. Tubes do not measure better than solid state. They're not better in every way, shape, and form, but they're more pleasing musically. I'm more firmly placed in the tube camp than ever, right? I mean, I played 4 in the morning, man. You know, and it's just a different thing. So, but part of that is, you know, distortion or a little bit of microphony creeps in. That leads to a little more texture. And you go, oh my God, what's going on here? And that's what it is.
So I raised my hand because I had the tube dampers. Well, I actually took them off, but I do have them just to compare. And I realized, well, I get a little bit better, you know, image specificity is the damper, but it sounds a little bit artificial. So I take them off.
Yeah.
That's my take.
I don't use it, but you know, try them, why not?
How about the things you use for tubes to dissipate heat, if they're thin things? What do you use?
Well, tubes are supposed to get hot. Got it? I'm trying to wrap my arms around that. Dissipate heat, but there's a heater inside that's heating the cathode, and the cathode is emitting electrons out to the plate. So what wears out in a tube really is the cathode as it gets older. So you can't cool that off with a tube, you know, something that cools the tube down. So I would say nay to that one.
I picked up some tubes and their cover from Hewlett-Packard scopes and Tektronix scopes that were clamped that tube down, and it must have been there to dissipate heat. Why would they have done it?
Tektronix with tube damper, with tube. I know I've gone through plenty of Tektronix scopes, I've never seen them, but why not?
They were on the space shuttle.
What was it? Was it a big fin thing that went around the tube?
No, it was just, it had a normal outside shell, typically sort of a brownish copper color. And then on the inside, it was a mesh, steel meshing there that went around the tube. Shield, yeah.
Well, it could have been a shield,
Oh, yeah.
more so than something to dissipate heat. How much time we got? Got a minute or two?
About 5 minutes or so.
Okay. Go ahead.
In the EL34 family, what's your favorite sounding tube? 77s, 34s, 6L6s, what do you like the most?
I think one of the greatest value right now, because he hasn't jacked the price up, is the Muller EL34 made by New Sensor, made in Russia. It's a good tube. They don't come back. They sound good. People are happy. I put the KT77s in some Marantz Model 9s that I have. They sound okay. Those amps don't sound that good though. So I probably should do a shootout. I would think that the KT77s would sound pretty good. What amp is it going in?
The KN again.
Well, the CAN will let you use other tubes, won't it?
Well, I can use 6L6 GCs in there. I have tried KT77s and any EL34.
And KT66s, try the Russian KT66. That's a
I have
nice
tried
tube. You have tried it?
I have not, no.
That's a nice tube.
Is it? Okay.
Or trade in that CAN for a Prima Luna, and then you can put any tube you want in there. What else?
Just as we get to the ending here, where can we see you today? What suite numbers are you in? And if we are excited about tubes that you've shown us today, can we pick them up today and get some from you?
Yeah, we're giving free cryogenic treating on everything today. I brought a bunch of tubes up. We're in 528 and 520 something. 528. I've got a lot of tubes up there on display and to buy, to sell. We brought a lot of stock, and people have been buying the snot out of it. We can take credit cards, but you don't have to buy anything. You can just come up and say hi. We brought one of our tube burn-in racks. We have Tubezilla and Son of Tubezilla. We brought Tubezilla today, which burns in 24 tubes at a rack. We age them before we match them. We brought an Amplitrex tube tester hooked up to a computer. Yeah, just some fun stuff. I mean, I thought, you know, everybody sees, you know, you can listen to Diana Krall on another frickin' system. You know, I wanted to bring something that was a little different. So we brought that stuff up. So you can take a peek and see how we do things. Question? Go ahead.
What's the tube for longevity and, you know, good sound quality for like non-illusions and 3D?
Audio Illusions, L1 is a disaster.
Which one?
The L1 is a disaster. The Modulus 3 is not a disaster, but close. Because he runs those tubes. I used to supply him. I used to sell him tubes, and I just couldn't do it. They run the tubes really, 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 really hard. So if you're looking for the safest tube, just use Russian. But I'm going to give you guys a tip on something. Does anybody here have something that uses 6 DJs or 6922s? Anybody? You have got to key in to the 7DJ8, PCC88. It is plug-in compatible to every 6DJ8 position. And you can buy the same tube that would cost $150 as a 6DJ8. You can buy it for $35, $45 as a 7DJ8. And it's no different. PCC88. I managed to score a big whack of them, and you can sell them for $35 each. Nice stuff. So that's a real good tip.
What brand is that?
I've got all kinds of brands. I got Philips, made in Holland. I've got Matsushita, made in Japan. Those are really cool.
Those old red box ones? Okay, I got some of those.
You did?
Yeah.
And?
Hello?
Yay, this is my other cousin.
Thanks very much. It's about that time.
It's about that time. Any last questions? Run out of here? Last question.
Is there a particular, you being a Prima Luna dealer, is there a particular Prima Luna amp or monoblocks that you prefer for your own personal listening?
The original Prologue series, because I've got a special deal. In fact, we brought some up here. They're going down in history as classics now. They're called the next Marantz 8. they're built better than Ryan Safe. So, like, we brought a bunch of stuff down, I'm gonna be blowing shit out. I mean, we don't discount Prima Luna, but here at the show, we're gonna really knock things out, okay? All right, I wanna thank you guys. Thank you.